So a very good morning to everyone. We will slowly start and just refresh what we learned yesterday about user defined data types. Basically, structure is the C language's mechanism for creating user defined data type. User defined data type means we create our own data type. So far we were only using the existing data types, integer, character, etc. And when we wanted to store large amount of data, we created arrays using the existing data types. Okay, integer array or character array, etc. Now, structures allow us to create our own data type by combining the existing data types. So that's what we did in the last class. So we had an example, student structure, and the components of student structure are name, ID, and CGPA. And we combined these three components and created a new data type called student. So once I have the data type ready, once I define the structure like this, I can create variables of student data type. Then once I have the variables, we can store data into the individual members. So these are the members, and I can store data into the individual members and process it in our program. So this was one complete example which will tell all the aspects, all the commonly used aspects of user defined data types. We created the structure here and we named it as student. Now student has become a new data type for our program. In our program this has become a new data type and we can create variables using that data type. The syntax is keyword struct followed by the name. Then we have to list all the member elements or members of the structure. So I wanted to store the student name, so I created a character array. I wanted to create add the ID, student ID or the USN. I'm assuming it as an integer, so I used integer variable as the member. Then to represent CGPA, I used floating point variable. So these are the three members as of now for the student data type. If I want, I can add more also. Any number of members I can add to this structure. Okay, as of now I'm keeping it simple and small. Now once I have the data type ready, the name of the data type is student. I can create variable using struct student followed by variable names. Struct student variable names. So this struct is normally for integer we create int x like this. Okay, name of the data type or the data type and the variable. Here name of the data type is student and we would expect student s1 is sufficient, but in C it is not sufficient actually. Okay, when you go to C++, maybe student s1 is fine, but in C you need to use the keyword struct also, okay, before the data type name. So once I create this in memory, space is allocated for this. Space for this is normally the sum of the space required for the individual members. Okay, minimum sum of the space required by the individual members. Here 50 is the size of my character array, so 50 bytes, and for this 4 bytes, this also 4 bytes, so minimum 58 bytes will be allocated. And sometimes compiler will add some extra bytes to
Sir, are you talking like we can't hear your voice? You're on mute, I guess.
oh, so why did you delay it so much, so long? I forgot to. Why did you delay it?
Sir,
Whenever.
I thought I had the problem, so I just
No,
waited
no,
for 2 minutes.
don't think like that, because in case of doubt or in case of any audio or visual problem, it may be mostly affected, like for everyone. Okay, so immediately you should know, like inform me. Okay. Even in case of doubt also, if you have a doubt, very high chance that many others are having the same doubt. Don't think that only you have the doubt and others are all understood. And whatever doubt, small doubts or big doubt, whatever you have, you can ask at any point of time. Is it audible? Audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, okay. What I was anyway, it will be there in the recording. Hopefully today video and audio will come. Yesterday's video did not get recorded, so that was an issue. Okay. So what I meant was like we created our own data type using the existing data types as the members of our new data type. Student is our new data type, and these are the members. And once I have student data type, I can create variables of student data type. So normally we create index for the built-in data types index, but here we have to use struct also. Okay, since it's a user defined data type in C, we have to use struct also. In C++, we may not need to use this. Simply student is sufficient, but since we are in C, we need to use struct student s1. And memory is allocated. So the memory allocated for this variable is minimum the sum of the memory required for the individual members. Okay, so here this requires 50, this requires 4, this requires 4. So minimum 58 bytes will be reserved for S1. Now if I create S2, one more variable is created. S2 is totally different from S1. Both are having these members created. These three members created for S1 as well as S2 separately. That also yesterday I demonstrated. Okay, when what happens in the memory, and both will have the members name and ID. So totally now if this is allocated 58 bytes, this also will be allocated with 58 bytes. Totally physical existence of these two variables are totally independent. Two variables are created, minimum 58 byte size, and this is also minimum 58 byte size. And we can store data independently. Now in yesterday we saw how to assign the value compile time. I can assign it, this member I can assign using si.id s1.id and equal to 10, s1.cgpa equal to some 9 point. I can assign compile time, but practically we will accept it from the user. In that case we use dot operator, s1 dot name. Since name is an array, character array or a string we are receiving from the user, we use percentage s here, s1 dot name, to indicate name is the member of variable s1. Now if I create s2, s2 also will have a name, so s2 dot name we have to use that way. Then since it is a character array, we don't use ampersand, but id is an integer, single integer variable, so we use ampersand to indicate that it belongs to id belongs to variable s1, or it's a member or a sub variable of s1. We use s1 dot id. Similarly s1 dot cgpa, and ampersand is prepended because it is a single variable, similar to the normal variable uh, reception from the user. Now when we are displaying, we don't use ampersand anywhere, we just display it. Okay, we saw this program yesterday, and when I run, it will ask, so Rohit, USN and the CGPA, etc., and it simply displays back. Okay, so this we saw yesterday. This displaying is done by this statement, receiving from reading from the user is done by this statement. So I will make this as one the next assignment question, to indicate or to teach you the basic use of structure, user defined data type structure, data type creation, and the creation of variables of user defined data types, and reading the values, displaying the values. In between, in a normal program you may do some minimal processing also. Okay, so yeah, just it is a trivial case, I am ignoring that. So this will become one of your assignment question. So soon I will be asking you to submit the first version of the assignment, first part of the assignment. So you have to write it in the A4 sheet neatly with the question or the problem statement, and with a cover page you have to nicely submit it. So that will be the part 1. Then, including the remaining programs we are going to cover in the subsequent modules, we will have a part 2 also. Okay, you can take a snap of this, the first assignment question from structure topic. Okay, now this is creation of a single variable. What if we want to create an array of the user defined data type? We know how to create array of an integer. Similarly, what if we want to create array of students? So here my current program will allow us to store only one student's detail. If I want two students details to be stored and processed, I can create s1 comma s2. But if I want to have to store all the 46 students data, then I need some other mechanism. That means I need to create an array of user defined data types. Okay, so this is my program. Similar to the previous program, I have the definition of the structure. Here I create the user defined data type. The name is same. I want to store name of the data type is same, student. Members are also same. And instead of creating a single variable, I am creating a array. Maybe I can create an array of 10 student variables. So this is very similar to creating array of an integer. So index of 10. Very similar. So only this difference is struct student we are using, but the variable, otherwise the variable name, the number of elements in that array. So with this we can store up to 10 students details in this, and we can access it using the indexing variable I is equal to 0 to 9. Indexing variable I with value legal values from 0 to 9. Okay, so we can create this way. This will create an array of 10 student variables, and we can store. If I want to create the store the details of all the members of your class, I'll have to create an array of minimum 46 size. I think you are 46 in strength. So normally I'll create 50 and 50 size and ask the user how many students you want to. Normally in a class there will be 60 students, so I can create maximum 60 size and I can ask the user how many students details you want to enter. Okay, that is how it goes. So as of now, since I want to keep the memory consumption small, so I'll create it for the size 10. So I can store up to 10 students details here, and for the demonstration purpose I am not storing the details of all the 10 students, just I am storing the details of only 3 students. So for that I run a loop now. In integer arrays also we ran a loop to get the data from the user. So I am going to run a loop now for I is equal to 0, I less than 3, I plus plus. So my loop will run 3 iterations. First for I is equal to 0, then for I equal to 1, then for I equal to 2. When I is equal to 3, 3 less than 3 is false, the loop will not run. Now what is the body of the loop? So I ask the user enter the student detail. Maybe I will take it out. I don't want to print it every time. I will take it out. So I say enter 3 student details. 3 students details, so that I come to know how many students details I need to enter. So I print it here. Now the body of the loop is only one line. What is that I am doing? Previously in the previous program what we did, s1 dot name. It was a single variable, and I use s1 single variable name dot name. Here, since it is an array, I have to access one element of that array. One element of that array. So when I is equal to 0, this becomes s0. That means the first element of the array, which is the first student variable of that array. And on that I apply dot. So s0 dot name in the first iteration, then s0 dot id. This square bracket I am using to access the element of the array I created. s0 dot id, s0 dot cgpa. Now in next iteration I will become 1, I value will become 1. So I access the second element of the array, and each element of the array has got these members. Each element of the array has got these members. So for the second element, when I is equal to 1, for the second element I am storing the value of name entered by the user, also storing the value of id entered by the user, storing the value of cgpa entered by the user. So you have a lab program similar to this, and last semester's question paper also such a question came. Read the values of the values in a array of structure. This is called an array of structure, or this is called an array of structure. Okay, array of structure variables. So what we do is we access the individual variables in that array and store data into that. So I'll just, since I'm using only 3, I'll just create 3 size, and I'll show you in memory what happens. Okay, if I run this program, yeah, seems to be compiling. So enter 3 students details. So I'm going to enter. I need to enter ID, then CGPA, then second student's data. Some data I need to enter. So this is the input. Okay, 3 rows I entered, and name, ID, CGPA in each line. Now after that I am displaying it in a little bit elaborated way. Okay, name, ID and CGPA of the first student, then second student, third student. Just displaying back. This is the behavior of the program. So when I am displaying, same thing I am using, actually I am using the same loop, very similar loop, or exactly same loop, but the body is different. There I have given the column title, name, I mean the field name basically, name, ID, CGPA. For each student, when I is equal to 0, the first student's details are printed. When I is equal to 1, second student's details are printed. When I is equal to 2, third student's details are printed. Since my boundary value here is 3, only 3 students details will be taken. For I is equal to 0, I is equal to 1, and I is equal to 2. Okay. Now I'll just run this in the debug mode so that we have a better picture of what happens in the memory or how it is stored. Okay. So I think, yeah, I will run it in the debug mode. So I have S here. S is created. You can see 3 elements: 0, index 0, 1, 2, and each of them are having name, ID, CGPA, name, ID, CGPA, name, ID, CGPA. So far I have not, my program is here, I have not executed any further statement. So the output, all you are having is garbage value in name, ID and CGPA in each structure variable or each element of the array. Okay, so this is how it is. Now we move on, we continue to execute. For I is equal to 0, it is asking, we are going to scan it. So when scanning is enabled, I need to go there and enter the value of the first student. Okay, if I press enter, I am back in my program. So the scanf function did its job. It took that data and stored it into the first element. Remember, I is equal to 0. You see, I is equal to 0. That means first element of the array. First element of the array. And I have stored Rohan 1, 2, 3, 4 and 9.35. Now in the next iteration of the loop, again details of the second student I need to enter. So if I press enter, the body of the loop is executed for I is equal to 1 and I get the values entered by me here. Anita 1, 2, 3, 5, 8.56. One more time I will execute F7. So I need to enter another student's data. So I am out. So now I is equal to, I will be incremented to 3. As of now it is 2. So here this I plus plus will increment it to 3. 3 less than 3 is false. We will go out of the loop. Here I am going to print the details of the students. Again starting I is equal to 0. And then I equal to 1, I equal to 2. So at this point of time, one student's details are printed. First student's details are printed. Okay. I am putting a new line character here. So after one line, the ID will be in a new line. CGPA will be in a new line. Then second student's details are printed. Something went wrong. Okay. Looks like my execution it got stopped in between or something. Okay, this is how it happens actually. It is going to display the three names. Three students details. So this is how we create an array of structures. This is also a topic in your syllabus, array of structures. Okay, normally what we do is we create an array of student structure of maximum size, then ask the user how many students you want to enter, how many students details you want to enter, and we'll take it in a variable n, and this boundary will become n. For the loop the boundary value will become n instead of, so it's as good as putting n equal to 3. Instead of getting assigning n equal to 3 here, we will ask the user how many students details, and that will be scanned into variable n, and the loop will be based on n. That is how generally it is. Okay, let me see whether I have a program that way. No. So probably I'll generalize this so that this can be your next assignment question from this topic. So what I need to do, I need to declare the variable n, ask the user how many students, then scanf percentage d ampersand n. So now my program is somewhat general. Within a maximum limit of 10, I can enter any number of students. So if I execute this, how many students? So I'll tell okay, 2 students. So I'll enter 2 students details. So the students details are printed. So my program is somewhat general now. Hope everybody is clear about what we did in this topic, array of structures. Okay, so this will be your next assignment question. You can take a snapshot. How do I?
So the top part or the bottom part, sir?
No, I'm going to fit it into one page actually, so that you can, or I'll slightly, yeah. This is now I think it is complete. So you can take a snapshot. And meanwhile, I'll also save it for my record to keep track whether you are doing all the assignment questions also, or questions you do. So this will be the 16th question of your assignment. Okay, so I'll announce now only the first part of your assignment you submit by Monday, uh, the coming Monday. First part of your assignment you submit by the coming Monday. Okay, so it should be neat. I know like everybody is going to write the same program because already I have given the program, so I am going to consider how neatly it is done. So it should be in A4 sheet, cover page, pages numbered. The problem, whatever you are doing, a brief description should be given as a 15 array of structures, something like that you have to give to indicate what is done in that program. Okay, array of structures or array of student structures. Such a title should be there for each question. There should be a cover page which displays your name, USN, and the section. Okay, and the title will be C programming assignment part 1. C programming assignment part 1. Cover page. So that also will carry a component, like how neatly you are presenting it. Now after creating it in paper, on paper, you have to scan it and submit it. I will create an assignment, again an assignment in Classroom, Google Classroom. In response to that, you have to submit your assignment. I am giving the deadline as uh, Monday, coming Monday, so that you get a weekend also to complete this task. So far 16 questions are there. These questions should be written there. Okay, any question about that? Any doubt about the assignment?
So can you just show the 15th one? I didn't take the screenshot.
Yeah, this is 16. Okay, 15th one is here. Basically, single variable creation using the user defined data type and reading the data and displaying it. Here in 16 program is about an array. How to create an array of user defined data type and how to read data. So such questions will be there in your semester end exam or in the second test, it can be there. Okay. So these are some topics which you can score easily if you know the basic structure of the program or how to use the structure concept in a program. Okay, that much is basically about the structures. Structures is a simple topic or small topic, and you should be able to create a structure, read data into that, compile time or runtime, then process it slightly and display the result back. Here we did not do any processing. Normally an example for processing is, instead of CGPA, the member will be say int m1, mark 1 in one subject, so int m2, int m3, etc. Then you may have to compute the average of those marks. That is one possible scenario. You need to process the data. Here I am just receiving the data and displaying it. So, okay, if CGPA is not a member, instead of that individual marks are given, you may be asked to compute the average of a student or average of every student and display. Okay, in that case you will create the structure slightly differently, like int m1 comma m2 comma m3 you can create. Then you, in scanning, you have to use s0 dot m1 ampersand s0 dot m2 ampersand s0 dot m3, like that you have to, and using a loop you have to compute the average for each student, and after that you need to display. Okay, that is the possible complicated scenario, but it is like not very likely that you will encounter even that kind of questions also, but you be prepared for that to do some minimal processing. In the notes I have given examples for that actually. Okay, I have given more examples in the notes that you can refer how this will be useful. The concept of structure is applied in a practical example application. Okay. Hmm. That much. Any question about structures? These things and all we have explained in the last class. Creating how the memory looks like when I'm creating S1 and S2. How the memory looks like. S1 is independent of S2. No connection between both. Then I can do as a copying. So if I do S2 equal to S1, everything in S1 will be copied into S2 into the corresponding members. What is in S1's n will be copied into S2's n. What is in S1 C will be copied into S2's C, member C. Like that, it will be copied. Okay. So that much about uh, structures, the user defined data type creation mechanism in C.